going to put myself also on the speakers list. Oh, Councillor Morley, sorry. Oh, Councillor Cole has the motion, okay. I assume you want to speak also, okay. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Painful conversations are something that a lot of us come to with a lot of reluctance, but they're worth having because sometimes something happens during that conversation that surprises you and you get a new insight. And that happened for me today. And it happened comparing some of the things that Councillor Holyday was saying with some of the things Councillor Moyes was saying, particularly around public opinion and public acceptance of the decisions that City Council makes. Councillor Holyday said in his remarks that we're offside with public opinion. He asked deputants, well, you know, isn't this unpopular? And if government does something unpopular, doesn't that bring us into disrepute? He asked another one, you know, do you think there's been adequate public consultation on this? Reflecting on that and reflecting on some of the things, you know, Councillor Holyday, like all of us, has the right to move motions and debate them and doesn't have to do a public opinion poll on every one. I can think of some in the last budget. He moved a motion that we should start charging children to ride the TTC. I'm unaware of there being a public opinion poll on that, but I doubt it would be popular. Similarly, he moved a motion that if the federal government didn't give us money for shelter beds, we should start closing shelter beds by attrition. You remember that one too. Again, I don't think there was a public opinion poll on that, and I doubt it would have come through with a lot of public support. So what's different about this one? What is different about this decision from every other decision that Councillor Holyday has moved a motion on without first polling public opinion? I think it has to do with the fact that this is a very divisive issue and it goes to whose voices are legitimate in the conversation about the future of the City of Toronto. And that's what Councillor Moyes was talking about. Sure, you can go and do a public opinion. You can do a survey and collect names from Lethbridge and Oakville and wherever you want to. And there will always be a voice in Canada that wants to refuse the efforts that we make here and that other governments make to address the structural racism in Canada and in the City of Toronto. There will always be people who don't want us to acknowledge that there is anti-black racism in our society, and we have a duty to deal with it. The legitimate thing for a government like us to do is to not privilege those voices, is to say to those voices, I am sorry, I come to my role as an elected official with values and morals and a vision of an inclusive future, and I am not going to listen to a petition, and I don't care how many names are on it, that says go backwards. I am going to listen to those voices in our community who are saying, I am excluded because of the color of my skin. And I am going to take action to include those voices. A key thing that has been said over and over again is the city did something wrong by moving a motion at council to do this, based on advice from just an advisory committee instead of some broader public consultation. What is wrong with asking Indigenous and Black voices what we can do to make the public spaces in the City of Toronto more welcoming and more reflective of their experience? That is how you make government legitimate for everyone, not just the privileged few. So I do not feel that this government is going to fall into disrepute. I feel that this is how we are going to build a reputation, that we are going to lead, that we are going to show it is possible to redress the historical facts of the city we live in, that we live on stolen and Indigenous land, that we have people here who got here as part of the slave trade, and that we are serious when we say those voices are legitimate, need to be respected, those lives have to be able to be lived to their fullest in a city that includes them, that privileges their voice in these conversations. And I am profoundly disappointed that any member of council would get in the way of that good work.
Oh, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McAuliffe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank my colleague, Councillor Moyes, for his leadership on this issue. We heard it in the question I asked. You know, using developer money is no different than using sponsorship money of a corporate sponsor. And the beauty of Councillor Moyes opening up his Section 37 funds, which are there to benefit the community, is that we can also pick a name that is more inclusive and welcoming and invites everyone in and makes everyone feel like there is a space for them in the city of Toronto and in the new square. And so I thank him for finding the solution, for the leadership in bringing this forward. And I will tell you that during Black History Month, I was at an event at Taibu, and the community was so happy to hear that this was going to be the name of the square. And they were so excited. And these are community members out in Scarborough. You couldn't get any further than that in the city of Toronto. It took me 2 hours to get here, by the way. So, you know, here's people that are a long distance from downtown, and they're gonna feel more welcome making that long commute and coming into the wonderful programming that is going to happen there. So even though this is very much we can think of as a local issue right at across the street, not too far from here, it really does impact the whole city. And I think people do need to know that the whole city is watching, and they're very proud that the square will be named Sankofa. So thank you to everybody that's been involved, including the committee that suggested the name. Thank you, Councillor Moyes, for bringing it forward.
Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to my colleagues and to all of the deputants who joined us today. As we heard, this is not the first opportunity for the public to engage on this conversation, but I think it's been a very welcome opportunity for us to reaffirm our support of this really important change. As a member of the African diaspora and a descendant of folks who've been forcibly taken and brought to this continent over many years, I know, it's important for us to look back and to make sure that we are making connections and that we are moving forward in a good way and holding space for voices, as my colleague Councillor Perks said, who traditionally have not been recognized or received in a good way, certainly not through our government or people in positions of power. So I'm really proud today of this great work, and I want to echo my thanks to the local councillor for his leadership. I know this has been a bit of a controversial one, and I am on social media, as many others are, and have seen a lot of different conversations come about as a result. But we here are leaders, and we do have a duty to address the long-standing structural racism that exists within the systems within which we operate and that impact people in their day-to-day lives, day in and day out. I'm a big believer that love is truth and truth is love, and we all have a responsibility to speak the truth, to own the truth, and to move forward with loving open hearts and with inclusion for all people impacted in different ways. So again, I'll keep my remarks brief, but it is a real moment of pride for me to be part of this cohort of Toronto City Council in the most diverse city on the globe, to be holding space, as was called on by one of our deputants today, for voices and experiences that we've not held enough space for, in my estimation, in our history and as part of our fabric locally and nationally. So I thank you all for your support and look forward to this change.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Yes, I have a motion up. Just basically technical in nature. I'm mooning on behalf of Councillor Moyes. Ask the City Council to authorize the manager, consultation with the city solicitor, to amend the relationship framework for the City of Toronto and Young Dundas Square. There's a number of technical things, including to develop a 5-year strategic plan to develop sponsorships. So it's all there in details. Yeah, I was just thinking when one of the deputants was talking about Dundas and having his grandfather or father on Dundas. Well, I happened to live my early years of my life just off Dundas. I lived at Bellwoods in Dundas, and I spent a lot of time on Dundas. And I think I knew it pretty well then. And my uncle had a travel agency there. There was a famous Italian bakery there, one of the best bakeries that closed. Unfortunately, there was Knob Hill Farms was there, which was owned by a Greek. There was St. Agnes Church.
Macedonian.
Macedonian, Jesus, no, yeah. Then there was the incredible Bellwoods Park is right there in Dundas. I spent a lot of time in Bellwoods Park. And I saw some of the best baseball players I've ever seen. And some of them were black baseball players, believe it or not. There was a famous black surgeon that grew up at Dundas and Bellwoods. Bev Salmon, the former councillor's husband, Doug Salmon, became a world-renowned Canadian surgeon that lived right at Dundas and Bellwoods. I'm thinking of, I had another couple of relatives that owned part of a hardware store there at, and then there was a theater I used to go to called the Center Theater. We used to go see Triple Bills on Saturday. I think it was 12 cents, and it was an amazing experience to see
12 cents.
Anyways, it was an incredible street, and there was a lot of good Jewish bakeries there. It was a mixture of Jews, Italians, and there was quite a significant black population there. Going back to Toronto, back at the time, the Underground Railroad that lived what is now Alexander Square. So there was always a black neighborhood there. And so just reflecting on Bathurst. But, you know, coming to understand, Toronto changes. You know, Toronto has changed. So I'm not expecting that all of a sudden Dundas now, oh, we got to hold on to all the name of Pane Victoria was the bakery. Oh, let's not change the name of Pane Victoria. You know, so changes occur. We get immigrants from all over the world. We have to finally accept that there are newcomers here, and we have to basically make them feel welcome. And we also reflect the history of the newcomers, reflect the fact that over 12.5 million blacks were brought across the Atlantic in chains to this country, you know, and what's the cost of that? That went on for about 400 years. And so this is a bit of understanding and appreciation of the hurt, the damage that was done by this diabolical thing called slavery. And so the community, from the Ghanaian community, said that it was just a little bit of respect for what the hell they went through. All they're asking is for the name to a damn square. And people here talking about the cost, and they got petitions from Kamloops and all this stuff. That's just cheap politics. You can easily get a rise out of people and say, oh, it's going to cost taxpayers money to change a name. And then they were very disappointed, that same group of haters, when they heard we weren't going to change all of Dundas. Oh, God, now it's just a square. Oh, that's even bad. Even if we were to change one signpost, they'd be complaining. Because the platform for hate, that's what it is. Simple as that. So let's do the right thing here. Recognize the horrific history of colonialism that was perpetrated on the innocent people of Africa. And the least we can do is give them this name to recognize a bit of empathy with what they went through. And I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I don't think it's going to solve all of our problems. But let's remember, we owe a little bit of respect to our newcomers here, especially our black newcomers. And sometimes things change. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. No other councillors. I'll say a few words. Just want to thank all the deputants that have taken the time, and I heard you. especially Sipo Kwaku, who said that he's a descendant of a slave from Ghana. And he ended by talking about giving each other space. He said directly to people that are opposite to this renaming, to say, can you not give us space? And the president of Ghana Canadian Association of Ontario said it very eloquently. We are one people, except there are people that have endured a whole lot of pain. And because perhaps I was a member of parliament, I gotten used to reading Hansard. I wanted to read directly myself what was the transcript and what did Henry Dundas said at the time. And I spent quite a bit of time reading through the Hansard and the debate at the time. Let me tell you, his motion delayed the end of slavery for 15 years. It prolonged the pain and the suffering and the oppression and the of people being sold. No, he never set foot on Toronto. Why are we honoring a person like that, is the question I asked. I then read some more. Why did he do the deferral for 15 years? Well, because he thought that it was important to bring some young children, because the plantation needs the people. Well, bring the children, the 15-year-old, the 16-year-old, never mind the older people. Let's just bring the kids, because they can live longer, they can mate. I thought, wow, okay. What happened when we separate children from their families? We remember those residential schools, the horror that came from it, right? So I thought, my goodness, I know which side I'm on when it comes to renaming. And in life, not everything is for sale. And this square had been, I know the history of it very well because I was a member of council at the time. And I thought, how beautiful is it, the name Sankova? And Councilor Moise, you're right. This is a celebration. It is about belonging. It's about looking back, but taking what we know and learn and going forward together. And I thought that is a good way to celebrate who we are as Torontonians. When we said diversity is our strength, you cannot mention the word diversity if we don't celebrate each other. And correct some of the pain correct some of the names that are still inflicting pain on others. Because when I heard those deputants, they said, well, yeah, it costs us, sorry, I should do this. It costs us pain. It makes us feel that this is not our city. And to all those deputants, thank you for reminding us who we are. I just want to end by busting two myths. One is, there is no consultation. Excuse me? I went and looked through this report in 2021, July. I actually looked up the report. July 14th. There were a lot of discussion at that time, and then there was another report, 2022, twice, and then December 2023, and today, all day. How is it that someone could claim there's no consultation? There was a committee, they talked to a whole lot of people, and they worked hard, all 20 of them, okay? They worked hard. And it reminded me of the renaming of the Ryerson University. Ryerson University at the time said, we will send this to a committee, we will trust their opinion, and they did just that. They came back with Toronto Metropolitan University. Some said, should it be a name? Others said, why Toronto, etc. TMU, the president and the university said, we're gonna move forward, and they did it. And I happened to be a professor at the time there. And hey, had to change the letterhead, change some signs, and change my business card, any number of things, but the world didn't end. It was fine. TMU is what we now call it, Toronto Metropolitan University. So it's the same process. And the other myth that I want to say was that, oh, it's going to cost millions of dollars. I heard 12 million, 13 million, how many million? I don't know where that came from. And this is after December last year when we made the decision to say that this is all Section 37. There were people that continue to say that it's going to cost millions. Excuse me, that is blatantly not true. Because we made that decision in December and said that it's all Section 37 money, it's not taxpayers' dollar. We knew that at the time. It was 350,000+. And yet, that millions of dollars, I heard it over and over again, and that is also not true. So those are the two myths I want to correct. That is unfortunate, and no one should continue to repeat that packs of lies. Anyway, we have motions in front of us, and I don't know when the celebration is going to be. Councillor Moyes, just make sure you invite us. And I do know there are other folks, there are other big multinational players that want to participate in this celebration. They have told me privately, and we'll talk more about that, okay, later on. Thank you. Anyone else on the speaker list? The motion in front of us, Councillor Cole's, Deputy Mayor Cole's motion. All those in favor, opposed, carry, and a recorded vote. Okay. And how about the motion? How about the item as amended? Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation and motion as recommended. Okay, Councillor.
All those in favor? Mayor Chow, Deputy Mayor Malik, Councillor Cole, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Matlow, Councillor McKelvey, Councillor Perks, Councillor Ainsley, and Councillor Morley. That's unanimous.
Okay, good.
All right, we are done with this item. The next item, thank you for your patience. We have the last item, and it is the proposed land lease for the Somali Center for Culture and Recreation, 15.6. I have, I'm going to close the speakers list right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Is 37? Okay, there are 37 speakers. And I'm just doing my math. If there's question to the speaker, you would even extend it more. 37 times 5, it is, yes, it will be close to 3 hours, 185 minutes. And we are now at 3 o'clock. We may not have quorum. Councillor Holiday and other council members, are you okay if I move the speakers list to 3 minutes? Okay, and because if not, we will lose quorum on this one, I suspect.
Madam Mayor, if I may suggest, I'm not sure that the full speakers list is still in attendance. I don't know if you want to do a show of hands in the room.
Okay, let me just ask, okay? That's a very good question. How many are here to speak? Can I just see a show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, okay, thank you. How many? 5, pardon me. 5, okay, I have 5. How many online? Can you?
Those are calling in when they hear their name.
Okay, how many of you are online can you raise a hand? This is not a, oh, you can't raise a hand. This is not Zoom. Okay, never mind. We don't know. So how many people are online, Madam Clerk? We have 35 people. 32. And those of you that are not speaking on this item, can you drop off for a minute so that and then you can come back in, okay? Can you drop off a minute so that I know how many of you want to speak on this item? There's a recommendation for deferral of this item. I just want you to know. So you're really speaking to a deferral of this item, okay? So how many of you are still interested in speaking? And if those of you that are not speaking, you can just drop off for a minute. You're welcome back on give us 2 or 3 minutes. I just want to make sure that we don't lose quorum on this.
Not everybody's dropping away. We have about 28, 27.
About 25, 26? 27, okay. So those of you that are still remaining is speaking, okay? That is 30 people, that times 5 is that is still 2 hours. I am in your hands. That's 150 minutes. Do you want me to do a 3-minute? Okay. That might, 30 people, 3 minutes. Okay, I think we may be hour and a half, probably 2 hours. That would work, okay? Yeah, are we all right to do a 3-minute? Council Holiday, you shaking your head? You want 5 minutes? You want to take the risk? We lose quorum? I can't guarantee.
Mayor, if I can provide humble advice to the
Please do.
council, I've been in receipt of a
If
lot
you
of...
can come closer to the mic so I can hear you
I've been in
better.
receipt of a lot of very passionate feedback from the community.
Okay,
I know that, I know the folks that are here to speak have meaningful feedback for this committee. I'm surprised there's that many online. But I know from at least the folks that I've talked to, they've got a very clear message to bring to this committee within the 5 minutes. Perhaps you could mention to those that, if folks are repeating the same thing, that they may want to be economical in what they have to say so that they don't lose quorum.
okay.
But, I think part of the discussion today is about the community's involvement.
Okay, so you want 5 minutes. We'll take the risk. We'll do 5 minutes, and if we lose quorum, we will not be coming back tomorrow morning. We won't have quorum, okay? But if the item is being deferred anyway, then it might not matter. Yep, exactly. Then if you lose quorum, it doesn't matter. It'll come back next time. So let's just start. I have on the list, first speaker, 5 minutes, Sak Abdullah.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Executive Committee. And good afternoon to those who are listening online. My name is Zachary Abdul. I have the privilege of serving our nonprofit and our broader Toronto communities as board chair and president of the Somali Center for Culture and Recreation. And I'm here on continued days of celebration for Eid to continue to reinforce the spirit for the Somali Center for Culture and Recreation. For those who are aware of the project and who've collaborated with us to date, this is a project where its intent and spirit are deeply collaborative. And to be clear to the exec committee and those listening in, our committee, our organization asked for this item to be deferred in the spirit of collaboration so we could continue the conversation with local residents. The reason why we haven't been able to directly engage residents in particular areas is that our organization and the incredible work our team has done and our communities have done to date, we had an NDA where we were not given the opportunity at certain stages to directly engage and complete community consultations. Now, with a lot of the feedback, and I've spoken to many of the residents in Etobicoke Center, some who are even here today, I've already spoken to them directly, spoken to Councillor Holiday today as well. We had a very productive conversation. And I've spoken to other members of the Etobicoke Center community as recent as Friday, continuing to offer them the opportunity and the opportunities to have a discussion rooted in collaboration. And that's our aim, that's always been our aim. The Somali Center for Culture and Recreation project is not just a project that's a 40-year in the making project for a legacy Toronto community, the Somali community. It's a project that's being driven by Canadians who live across the city of Toronto and who want to work with other Torontonians and other Canadians to ensure that this collective, it's not just a dream, it's a collective dream, becomes a reality. I'm happy to stay behind and continue the discussion with residents from the Etobicoke Center community so we continue to collaborate. The importance of the project are very clear. The Somali community has made immense contributions to the civic culture and the cultural fabric of Etobicoke. But many of the members of the community are proud Torontonians and proud Canadians. So we're excited and thrilled at the opportunity to continue the dialogue and continue working with this incredible council that has not only has shown us allyship along the way, but also city staff who at various stages of this project have been extremely helpful and have shown us the spirit of collaboration. Once again, we're here to listen, we're here to collaborate, and we're here to continue working with communities across the Etobicoke Center, especially when it comes to process. I'll stop there in terms of my remarks. Thank you so much, Executive Committee. And to those Etobicoke Center residents that are listening, I'm happy to even give you my cell phone. We can do things the Etobicoke way, and you can directly call me. We don't have to send emails. We can do things the Etobicoke way. We can directly have a conversation. That I hope I'm not in trouble, but I'll stop there, as we know customer service very well in Etobicoke. So I hope folks could directly give me a call and we could keep the conversation going. Thank you so much, committee. I'm happy I made you laugh. And let's keep the collaborative spirit going. We have incredible momentum. Let's keep the spirit going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Councillor Holiday and then Matlow.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Zach. They're easy questions, but I wondered if you could highlight to the committee the work that your group has done. Let's take the discussion about the location aside, but there's a lot more than just determining a location that goes into the development of a community center. Could you highlight a little bit about the work that you've done, figuring out what this thing is and how it could come together? And then a little bit about what has happened in the most recent point in time around the discussion about actually citing the community center and the distinction between the two.
Yeah, Councillor Holiday, I'll address most of your questions. My colleague Fouad, who will be following up, will also be happy to address your questions directly. Councillor Holiday, to date, our organization has been asked to complete all the different cycles and requirements of the pre-development work required to make the Somali Center for Culture and Recreation collective dream a reality. So we've had to complete the pre-design work, which is a feasibility study. We've also had to complete a funding strategy of how are we going to pay for this. We've had to complete an operational plan. We've had to complete architectural drawings and renderings. If I'm going to be frank, Councillor Holiday, and also respectful, I believe our organization has been asked to do more than any other organization in the history of land lease agreements just to get to this stage and have this conversation. And we, at every stage, Councillor Holiday, have been willing and able to accept the challenge in the spirit of collaboration with city staff to make sure we complete that work. The second piece I'll say, Councillor Holiday, in terms of what's recently happened, as we know, at April's council, the entire council voted to finalize the location to establish a Somali Center for Culture and Recreation. This was based on expert advice. We've relied on expertise, Councillor Holiday, from planners and architects from some of the best firms, Urban Strategies, SVN, Perkins & Will. This is not our community just saying we're the expert, we know where things could go best. It's been expertise that has been driving the project. So in terms of the work that we've done to date, I've outlined that. And then as of recently, April's council, there was clearly a direction from City Council to report back in June with a final location and also speak to the contractual arrangements of an agreement. And I believe city staff have done their best to put that forward, and we look forward to working with them further.
Councillor Matlow has a question.
Thank you, Zach. You recognize, and you've said as much, that when there were a number of different sites being considered, there are reasons to keep that in confidence, and there's different negotiating leverages, there's different real estate considerations, et cetera. But you came to the conclusion, along with your organization, that if there's one site being proposed and recommended, that it was important to have a deferral and more conversation with the community itself. Is that a fair summary?
Because now, Councillor Mallow, the location has been public. So we are no longer having to directly uphold the NDA that has impeded us from disclosing this location that's being proposed. We have done our best job as a nonprofit, volunteers who do not get paid to do any of this work, right? We do this in the spirit of collaboration and community because we love this city and we love our communities. We've done this, Councillor Matlow, since the beginning of the year. We were briefing everyone that could be briefed based on the NDA, and that is city staff and city councilors. So we were very transparent of, here's what the expert opinion is saying to us. Here's what the expertise is saying to us. And the expertise wasn't cheap. It's very expensive to procure all that expertise. And we followed best advice from expertise on the path forward in the feasibility study. And that's what we've done to date. And we're happy, as you said, now that the item's deferred, we're excited to engage the local residents. I've heard many of their points. I've read them online. Let's have a conversation. Let's keep talking about concerns, questions, and let's put all the information out in the open. Let's have a very open, transparent dialogue.
And you're open to hearing the concerns. You're not saying fait accompli. You're saying we are genuinely open to having this conversation and working on a path forward together with the community.
100%, Councilor Mallow. Hence why the deferral request came from our organization, not entity. Because we directly heard some concerns raised, we directly had questions asked to us, and we want to keep that conversation going. We want to hear from the wisdom of multiple communities, right? To ensure that we do what's best, not only for the communities that are surrounding the area, but the communities in and around the park. And we want to keep the momentum going as well. There's incredible momentum. There's excitement in the Somali community, in the Etobicoke community, in the Etobicoke Center community, right? I'm right across the street. I don't want to give my address out because I'm probably not allowed to, but there's excitement. So let's find a way to bring that excitement together and figure out a path forward, and I'm confident that we can do so.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep, just 1 second. Councillor Perks and then Councillor, actually, you are not from the committee. You go first. Councillor Moise.
Just a quick question. Again, this is a good news story. This is the second item on the agenda that's a good news story. And I've spoken to you about this many times already. What is the reluctance here? I mean, again, I know you want to do more public consultation, but is there something else that I'm not seeing? Is the community wanting this? Is the local councilor wanting this? Or do you feel that there's pushback?
My understanding, Councillor Moise, and it's always good seeing you, by the way. You've been a big champion of the project, for the record. And you've been extremely supportive, so I want to make sure that's documented on the record. To directly answer your question, Councillor Moise, I wouldn't use the word reluctance. I would use the fact that there's been a dialogue that's been encouraged and really wanting for us to discuss the process in an open and transparent manner, right? You can't say that communities will be able to use the space, but potential space, 50% of the time if they don't know what's in it. So I think communities want to have a dialogue and they want to feel a part of the process, right? And they want it to be done in a transparent manner. And I think from our direct conversations with Councillor Holiday, he's been very direct with us from the very beginning. So we're asking to defer the item. My tone may change, but as of now, we're excited to keep talking to the local community there and to kind of find a productive path forward.
But I'm going to ask the same question that I asked earlier in the previous item. I mean, using an equity lens, are you being given space? Is your community being given space to make decision for itself? Or is it the dominant voices in the room that are actually flooding the airways?
I honestly believe, Councillor Moyes, equity and equality are very superfluous terms. I think what we're looking for here is justice. And as crazy as that sounds, every community in this country has had the opportunity to have their Canadian rite of passage, right? And a part of that Canadian rite of passage is finding a path to preserve your culture and heritage and bringing communities in. The weather's getting better. We're all looking for a salsa on St. Clair. We're looking for all these opportunities to celebrate diversity, to celebrate inclusion, right? When a community wants to build a space in one of the best cities in the world, it is a good news story, and we should be excited. And that's why we're deferring the item. We want to clearly communicate on our terms with the community there about why this is an exciting project, and we're excited to do so. And back to what you said, this is not only a good news story, but it's a great opportunity for us to do things in the spirit of what it means to be Canadian, right? We should always find a way to work together and collaborate across our differences, even when we don't agree, to ensure that we're doing things in the best interest of the communities. And we know from city planning reports, growth is going to happen in Etobicoke Center, just like it's happening in Scarborough. So how are we making sure that communities, right there, are going to have spaces to grow with as well?
Thank you.
Councillor Perks.
What's your phone number? No, don't worry about it.
I hope you're not hitting on me, Councillor Perks. We can talk after.
We'll talk after. I wanted to invite that conversation, and thank you so very, very much for the work you're doing, both to create the center and also to build a real strong sense of inclusion around how it's built. Thank you.
And that inclusion started in the 1970s, and that inclusion is being driven by our incredible board members, Fuad, who's right behind me, Hamdi Ali, Sago Sharia. I get emotional talking about the elders and all the support we've had. And that's why we're excited. We want to ensure that Etobicoke Center residents understand this great work. And a lot of the feedback that we've received, 70% of it has been about, we want to hear more. Let's keep the conversation going. So I want us to stay focused on that narrative so we can keep working together. Thank you, Councillor Perks. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Food Aptly. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
You may want to turn on your mic. Is it on?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, committee members, and everyone here today and watching virtually. Thank you sincerely for taking the time to provide us this opportunity to discuss this important project. I'm really here just to follow up what Zach was saying about the 40-year effort to build a community center in Toronto. Toronto has a very large, diverse, and vibrant Black community, and the Somali community is among the largest. It is important to ensure that all residents of Toronto are served by social infrastructure, particularly community centers. A community center provides avenue for community building, offers swimming classes for young children and families, serves as a place for neighborhood gatherings, and it cultivates civic engagement. Community centers are an important social and community development tool as they offer services to communities and are hubs of collaboration. However, this important social purpose infrastructure is not available in many neighborhoods, as Councillor Moyes was alluding to, and it disproportionately impacts the Black and racialized communities in Toronto. In 2022, the Somali Centre for Culture and Recreation released a report with the University of Toronto's Infrastructure Institute that identified a lack of social infrastructure, particularly in Etobicoke and Scarborough. More specifically, in Ward 2, Etobicoke Center does not have one, and our proposal fills a massive need in that community. In fact, this need was identified in the city's own Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan 2019 to 2038. Community centers that are nestled within parks areas is not a new concept in the city of Toronto. There are several prominent examples that I'm going to highlight. Trinity Community Recreation Center within Trinity Bellwoods Park, Canoe Landing Community Center within Canoe Landing Park, Northeast Scarborough Community Recreation and Childcare Center within Joyce Trimmer Park, Earl Bales Community Center located adjacent to Earl Bales Park, Wallace Emerson Community Recreation Center within Wallace Emerson Park. The list goes on and on and on. Community centers add to the vitality of neighborhoods, and wherever they exist in this great city, they are treasured assets. This proposed project is crucial to the City of Toronto, for the residents of Etobicoke, and for the Somali community in Toronto and the GTA. I want to note that the Somali Center for Culture and Recreation followed long-established city processes involving realty processes for developing this project. And that process began in 2022 with a motion on the floor of City Council. Today and over the next few years, I think we must come together and make this project a reality for our communities and deliver on this 40-year-old promise. Over the past 5 days, we've heard from various residents in the Etobicoke area and neighborhood associations near the proposed site for the community center. Several of them wrote to us or called us. We understand that achieving consensus is not a standard that we apply to all infrastructure projects, including community centers. There are different opinions in a democracy, and that's what makes our city special and our country great. However, our goal is to ensure that people feel heard and are included. Some residents have asked us for more time to consult on this proposed project, and we've heard them and are listening to them. In this spirit of collaboration that my colleague Zad has alluded to, we've requested that committee consider the deferral of this item until the next executive committee on July 16, 2024. It will give us time to hold additional engagement sessions on the proposal and account for the feedback of the community. Building social purpose infrastructure is complex and hard, and it needs committed visionaries and civic leaders to see the long-term benefits and recognize the precedents for success. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Next on the list, Marcus the Domenico. He's online. Okay. I need to take a break.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble getting my video to turn on here.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'll just go without the video. Good afternoon, Mayor. Nice to see you again, councilors, city staff. My name is Marcus DiDomenico. I'm the Toronto Catholic District School Board Trustee for Ward 2, Etobicoke Centre, and the Vice Chair of the Board. Today, I'm delegating as a TCDSB Ward 2 Trustee representing 40,000 plus Catholic ratepayers. There I am. Hello. In 2019, TCDSB purchased the TDSB's Buttonwood Public School, has received funding from the ministry to build a new elementary school on the site, and this site is at the southern end of the Buttonwood Park. Despite the proximity to the park, the TCDSB has not received any communication from the city on the proposed use of 3 acres at Buttonwood Park as a community center, cultural community center. As a trustee, I understand the use of private or in-camera sessions by committees and councils on real estate issues where competitive bidding or information must remain private to protect the integrity of the board. The city proposal, in my opinion, doesn't fit that requirement. The rationale is flawed and appears to be possibly used to suppress information from the public, residents association, and our board, and to not allow adequate time to organize and respond. This is poor governance and not great public accountability. Buttonwood Park is more than a satellite shot on a map. It's a focal point of a vibrant community where seniors visit from the resident right beside it, children can play in the park, and communities gather to enjoy the peace and quiet of its natural gifts. The school community would use it for play dates and recreation, an excellent use for physical and mental well health. The Buttonwood Residents Association is an active group that supports the needs and views of the community. I've worked with this group extensively as trustee in the planning of this new school that will open September 2026. I am proud that the TCDSB has been a genuine and good neighbor and open to voices and suggestions. Etobicoke residents have experienced issues with City Hall before, and many of the councillors will know of my opposition to the Bloor Street bike lanes, what we call the fiasco out here. We are looking for an opportunity to be involved. Councillor Holyday has advocated for an open consultative process in opposition to the location proposed. The community has responded and will soon present petitions with thousands and thousands of signatures, and no, Councillor Fletcher, not from Moncton. I have had discussions with representatives of the Somali community, and certainly with Zach, and I do have his cell phone number, and I fully agree that a cultural community center is an excellent idea for Etobicoke. I must say that my focus is on the location, or the proposed location. City staff literally couldn't have picked a worse option. No public park should ever be paved over and destroyed. I hope that the center is built in Etobicoke. I'm willing to work on that myself. It is the home of a great number of Somali residents. The City of Toronto has always positioned itself as a world leader on the environment. That is commendable, and we as Torontonians applaud it. This motion would effectively destroy a public park. It flies in the face of the city's commitment and makes a mockery of future statements on its support of green initiatives. Councillor Morley, who I consider an associate and a friend, may recall when she was a staffer to Councillor Campbell. Councillor Campbell asked the city staff to consider building a community center at Westway and Martin Grove in the park. And the answer was absolutely not. No parkland would be paved over for buildings. We value our green space, was the comment. A resident of Toronto must jump through endless bureaucratic hoops to remove a small tree from their own private property. Yes, but why? Because we value the environment. However, in this proposal, 3 entire acres would be gone. Imagine that. As trustee for Ward 2 Etobicoke Centre, I ask that the motion, I know it's a deferral motion at this time, but when it comes up again, be rejected only because of the location and also because the residents feel detached from the process. They are frightened that their beautiful park will be removed from them. And that is not the way we should do business with our residents. I would be very happy once again to work with the Somali community and certainly with my friends that I've already worked with going forward. And also I encourage the full consultation of the public with any proposals before reaching the stage in order to preserve public trust and maintain their rights. Thanks for this opportunity to speak. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to chat.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time today. Our next
Thank you.
Speaker is Vince Ciccelli. Online? Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker, Pauline Saliba. All right, Pauline, can you hear us? Pauline, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's great. You have 5 minutes, and begin when you're ready, and we'll let you know when you're getting to time.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll try and keep it short in the interest of time. Good afternoon.